Good day to all of you out there. I'm Cito Beltran. Welcome to the program Agenda on Signal TV channels 8 and 250, as well as on Facebook.com/OneNewsPH and YouTube OneNewsPH. It's October 15, 2020, and it's a Thursday. And today we are going to be once again interviewing several people which may be of interest to many of you out there. First of all, there is now a debate, argument, if you would call it, or a puzzlement for many employers what to do with a 13-month pay, because by law, all companies are supposed to pay the 13-month pay. But in the same law, there is a provision during the time of former Labor Secretary Blas Ople that if the company is distressed or namumroblema o walang kwarta, they could actually forgo the 13-month pay. So that's where the push and pull right now is, because there are many people who are still hoping against hope na magkabigayan ng 13-month pay, because it is a traditional source of income for many. We will speak with Undersecretary of the Department of Labor and Employment, Benjo Benavidez, regarding that issue. After that, we will feature a lawyer, Ismael Nogoy. He's a litigation and corporate lawyer, to talk about estates, because I have a family friend who recently came down with COVID-19, and he's past 70 years old, and he fortunately survived COVID-19. But when he first got it, at the first few days he got it, some people went into a panic because they realized my friend never really bothered to take care of having a estate, planning, last will, etc. And it was kind of awkward, because here you are, you're worried about croaking because of COVID-19, and people around you are going, oh my God, he doesn't have a will. So, but it brings home a real serious matter, the matter of estate planning. And during this time of COVID-19, we experienced so many people healthy today, next week gone, and there are a lot of people who have died because of COVID-19. Whether you are young, you are old, it's good to know for people. It's good for people to know what to do with your stuff in case you croak. In any case, we don't want that for you. We want you to stay in the best of health, but that's something we will discuss with Attorney Nogoy. And last but not the least, we will also speak with the unit head of Teledermatology of the Rizal Medical Center. And you might say, ano yun? Teledermatology. Yes, kasi alam niyo po, nauuso na. It's become such a normal thing for people to consult with their doctors via mobile phone or online or wherever. And they don't go to the hospitals anymore because they're scared. I mean, honestly, hospitals are pretty safe. I've been to several, just checking them out, and they're pretty safe. They're really cleaned out, so they're okay. But it helps to be able to communicate with your doctor. But we will ask Dr. Melendres, what should we do regarding telemedicine? Kasi hindi po lahat pwedeng i-telemedicine. Kanina lang, iniisip ko, mga mata ko. I haven't been to the optometrist or my ophthalmologist for, ever since COVID-19 lockdown happened in the Philippines. And I am overdue. Yung aking heart condition, yung aking cardiac history, I was able to do that via telemedicine and with my doctor Marlu Mendoza, and that's working out. But yung eyes medyo parang paano na yan? And it's kind of scary, but we'll discuss that later in the show today. And of course, may mga ibang bagay pa. Now, I just want to insert this before I go into the news and the headlines. Please, please, please. We seem to be going into a positive phase. Parang hindi po pa COVID positive. Yung medyo maganda-ganda na yung sitwasyon. Open up the government, the cabinet, wants 15 to 65-year-old people to be allowed outside of their home. Certain tourist destinations are being opened up, etc., etc. But ako po, I have a philosophy, a practice, a mantra, if you want to call it that. If you want to see what's going to happen in the country, go to other countries who are ahead of us. And in this case, in the case of COVID-19, while we are all yearning and being optimistic, I spoke with my wife and daughter last night, and I was saying, why don't you girls go out and have lunch together, etc., etc. And they said, Papa, they closed all the restaurants here. Apparently, the Netherlands has made an announcement that restaurants, bars, and all that sort of place are temporarily locked down. Bakit kanyo? Because they're seeing a second wave in Europe. And in Holland, in the Netherlands, that's the case. France, their prime minister is expected to make an announcement anytime within the next 24 to 48 hours regarding possible lockdowns or stricter policies, and all over, pati China. China medyo nagpanic because in a city of, I think, 9 million, there were incidents of COVID-19. What I'm trying to say is, while we are becoming more optimistic in the Philippines, while we are trying to open up the economy, medyo be aware, be careful, and realize that even the most experienced, best equipped and funded nations are right now going through what we've always been saying, a second wave, and it is creating second quarantine, second lockdowns, etc. So parang pinaunahan ko lang po kayo kasi baka mamaya pag biglang magka-problema tayo dito, magsisisihan tayo, mag-aaway tayo. Let's be fair with the government. This is a situation that is so unpredictable. And it all depends on us. Nasa atin po ito kung ating pananatiliin yung ating unti-unting paglaya sa COVID-19. Nasa atin po yun. Mag-iingat po ba tayo o hindi? I'm personally, I just told my wife that, I have been remiss about wearing a mask in the house, especially when I have a worker come in or help me. Medyo nakakaligtaan ko yan. Kailangan talaga po lahat tayo mag-ingat. In any case, sorry for that extended intro, but I just needed to share that with all of you. Now, here are the stories from the front page of the Philippine Star. The House of Representatives commits to pass the proposed 4.5 trillion budget tomorrow. Newly elected Speaker Lord Alan Velasco vows to lead the lower chamber into a timely, legal, and constitutional approval of the 2021 General Appropriations Bill. ACT-CIS Party List Representative Eric Yap, who is chairman of the Appropriations Committee, said that the House intends to finish the second and third reading of the budget tomorrow, Friday. But if time won't be enough, one Pacman Party List Congressman Mikey Romero said they will have to convene during recess and pass the budget next week. The Transportation Secretary Arthur Tugade has ordered the immediate adoption of the one-seat apart rule in public utility vehicles. Secretary also ordered more PUV routes to be opened and to fast-track the service contracting of buses and jeepneys in order to accommodate commuters. The agency has also earlier supported the return of motorcycle taxis, but that, however, requires a resolution from Congress. And the Senate approved on third and final reading the bill granting the President, Rodrigo Duterte, the power to expedite processing of permits and licenses during national emergencies. With 23 affirmative votes, no negative vote, and no abstention, this bill would allow the executive branch to cut red tape and corruption in government. The measure is seen to facilitate economic recovery and prompt delivery of public services during national emergencies like the COVID-19 pandemic. So those are the primary stories on the front page of the Philippine Star, and ayun po, marami pa ring mga nangyayari regarding the Congress. And here is the front page today. The Chief Justice and the DNR Secretary namamasyal po doon sa Manila Bay, doon sa Dolomite Beach Club. At sinusuri, sabi raw ng Chief Justice natin, okay naman yung beach, okay naman yung clean up doon sa Manila Bay. Well, we will be monitoring that kasi nagkakainitan na po dyan dahil yung nilatag na buhangin recently medyo namantsahan daw. Ang depensa ng kaibigan natin sa DNR, dinala ng alon yung mga black sand, napatong lang dun sa white sand. Sabi naman ng mga critic, anong dinala? Na-anod yung alon, yun ang alon yung white sand. Well, anyway, let's go to, I guess today is going to be something that requires lots of clarifications. Let's go to our first topic, yung 13-month pay. Kasi alam nyo po, nililiwanag nga ng Malacanang yung batas-batas. Pero kung may exemption naman sa batas, dapat pagbigyan din yung mga kumpanyang nahihirapan. Okay, let's go to our first guest. He is the Undersecretary of Labor Relations at the DOLE, or Department of Labor and Employment. He has been with DOLE since 2008, serving in different capacities. Undersecretary Benjo Benavidez. Usec, Benjo, good morning.
Hi, Sir Cito, and to your viewers, good morning.
Okay, parang ikaw yata yung naiipit sa mga nag-uumpugang bato. You know, I'm really wondering, and some people are wondering, Usec Benavidez, saan nagmula? Where did this discussion come from on the 13th month? Kasi parang maraming akala, wala tayong 13-month, pasalamat nga tayo, may trabaho tayo, pero biglang nadyaryo at nabalita, biglang uminit. How did this start?
Well, that's true, Sir Cito. But by the way, every fourth quarter of every year, we usually speak of 13-month pay because this is the benefit that our workers expect on or before December 24. But yes, it's true. There were conversations regarding this recently because there's a group of employers who were actually proposing for exempting our distressed employers from paying the mandated benefit under Presidential Decree 851. Mm-hmm. So the conversation goes on. Last 2 days ago, we met with the National Tripartite Industrial Peace Council. It's a council composed of the labor and employers representative. And there we discussed this matter thoroughly. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so can you give us I don't know if you're the right person to ask this question. I want to be fair, no, Usec Benjo. Pero could you give us a picture of the situation out there? Kasi may mga taong may impression na, naku, ang dami nga nawawalan ng trabaho. May mga tao naman na may impression, Hindi, meron pa rin 50% ng mga employees tumatakbo, magiging 75. Meron namang impression na maraming na-lay off, etc. So parang it's hard to, wrap your mind around a 13-month pay if that is the situation. Ano ba talaga yung sitwasyon sa mga trabaho at sa mga kumpanya ngayon?
Well, the ground is resuming business operation. Yes, it's true that for the last 6 months, we have been observing businesses closing down. But because of the relaxing of the community quarantine, gradually businesses are now resuming business, such that they are now recalling back their workers to work. But let me point out, Sir Cito, that we are in the executive, and in the executive, we are bound to implement existing laws, and one of which is Presidential Decree 851. So we are still poised to implement that, a law that mandates the payment of 13-month pay. Yes, there is an implementing rules and regulation that provides for exemption to distressed employers, but this has to be proven. Kailangan pong patunayan. It is not automatic that one who is claiming to be distressed will now be automatically exempted from paying the 13-month pay. There is a process. But the conversation now, Sir Cito, when we met the sector, the labor and employer sector, is now on a proposal for the government to provide assistance to the distressed employers. Assistance in the form of subsidy, wherein they are asking the government to provide them some cash flow for them to be able to meet their obligation under the law. So
Yeah,
ito po ay yes.
Yeah, but hindi ba ginagawa na yan ng DOLE? Because I have spoken to some employers who told me na kuyang nakatulong talaga sa amin yung ginawa ng DOLE na nagbigay sila ng ano ba yun, salary insurance something?
Yeah, that's true. It's actually a government financial assistance to all affected establishment. In DOLE, we provided the one-time financial assistance of 5,000. The DOF, the SSS also provided a subsidy for the employees. But this time, what we are thinking of is helping the micro and small enterprises. Mabigyan po sila ng pera so that meron po silang pambayad dun po sa obligasyon po nila under Presidential Decree 851. In such a way, the workers will be secured of their 13-month pay.
Okay, ayoko kayong pangunahan. I don't want to, be ahead of you.
A proposal, yeah. This is just a proposal. There are several proposals that we are discussing, and we will be finalizing the decision in the next few days.
Okay, with that proposal of subsidizing or helping the small micro entrepreneurs, what is the inclination of the DOLE? Kasi from the very beginning, if you say we can manage that or mukhang pwede yan or we're okay with that, then we can continue talking. But if the DOLE already says, sorry, magkaparilan na dito, wala kaming ibibigay, wala kaming pagkukunan. What is the position of DOLE?
Well, actually, the secretary during the meeting has already welcomed that proposal. Indeed, he already directed our finance official to look for fund source. Yun po yung hinahanap na namin ngayon. So before we make the final decision, we wanted to make sure that there is a budget for this specific proposal.
Okay, gagawin naman kitang professor for the day, ano? Kasi marami sa amin, hindi namin naintindihan yan. A lot of us who are from this other side of the coin, we don't know how it goes. Now, how do we do computation for 13-month pay? Kasi first, let me just lay it down. Nagkaroon tayo ng lockdown for 6 months. Many businesses open, close, open, close, open. So sasabihin ng employer, hindi ko kasalanan yan. That's not my, it's not my fault. The government imposed this, so we all suffer. I cannot pay you 13-month pay for times na we were shut down. is that the logical uh, view or position? How do we compute for 13-month pay under the context of this open, close, open, etc.?
Well, it's logical to think or to propose that during the period of ECQ, uh, there's no amount due for 13-month pay. Because in the computation of 13-month pay, we just add the basic salary actually earned by the employees, and divide it by 12. So
Mhm.
for a calendar year, kung ano po yung income nyo from January to December, you just add it, then divide it by 12. That's the minimum amount of 13-month pay. But there
Okay.
are companies or employers giving more than the minimum amount of 13-month pay. And it
Mm.
has to be continuously given considering that there is a principle of law of non-diminution of benefits. So
Mm.
ganun po kasimple, Sir Cito. I-add nyo lang lahat yung income nyo, i-divide nyo ng 12, that's the minimum amount of 13-month pay.
Yeah, that is presuming that you were operating for 12 months and you were working for 12 months. But if, let's say, in the last 6 months, 3 months nakasara tayo, so that's 3 months less of 12 months. So we're only
Yes,
talking, well, so ganun din ang computation for 13
yes,
months.
yes, Sir Cito. You will just add the salary or the basic wage that you receive for the months of January, February, and March. Then you divide it by 12. That's the minimum amount of 13-month pay.
Okay, that applies for regular employees or long-term employees. Paano yung mga seasonal employees o kaya ay mga bagong empleyado na pumasok pa lang ngayon? Kumbaga, nagtayo ako ng negosyo this year during COVID because nawalan ako ng trabaho. Are my employees entitled to 13-month pay if they only came in, let's say, September, October?
Yes, they are if they already rendered service for at least 1 month. So kung
Okay.
nakaisang buwan na po, the eligibility requirement when it comes to length of service is for purposes of 13-month pay is just 1 month. So kung
Mhm.
nakapagtrabaho na po kayo ng 1 month, entitled na po kayo sa 13-month pay. But definitely it will be a proportion. Hindi niya makukuha yung buo. Because
Okay.
if the worker only works for 2 months or 1 month or 3 months, maliit lang po talaga yung amount ng 13-month pay na makukuha po niya.
What about kasi you were assuming no na ito yung 8 to 5 o 9 to 5
Yeah.
employee, etc. Paano yung mga tinatawag nilang mga part-timer o kaya yung mga talent? Kumbaga pakontrata ba?
Yeah, well,
Ah,
that applies to all, Sir Cito, because the presidential decree as well as the implementing rules and regulation do not exempt them from the obligation of paying the 13-month pay. Employers are still required to pay them 13-month pay, but one exception under the implementing rules and regulation are those employees purely paid on commission basis. So yun lang po, Sir Cito. For other workers who are not actually reporting to work from 8 to 5 o wala po
mm.
siyang regular working hours, they are still entitled to 13-month pay.
Kahit na puro sila work from home, hindi sila regular employee. Kasi may mga talent, di ba? May mga talent
Yes.
sa creative, may mga talent o mga manufacturing ka. Kasi kailan pa ba yung presidential decree na yan? Kasi sa
Well,
tagal...
sir, ito po ay matanda pa po sa akin eh. The presidential
Aba,
decree was issued in 1975, and the same
aha.
implementing rules and regulation was issued in 1975. So regardless of the employment status, regardless of how they are paid, whether they are paid by hour or by work rendered, then they are still entitled to 13-month pay because the law does not exempt employers from paying this mandatory benefit.
Aba, akalain mo nga naman yan, Usec Benjo. Meron kasi ako napagtrabahuhan, hindi ako binigyan ng 7 taon eh. Kasi hindi raw ako entitled. Yung pala, wala palang exemption dyan.
Wala po.
Aba, kailangan ka. Pwede pa ako posthumous claim? In any case, go ahead.
Actually, we are actually taking advantage of this conversation because many of us don't actually know that there is such a law on 13-month pay that actually covers all workers or employees. So mabuti pong napag-uusapan po ito ngayon.
Kasi katulad nito, baka mapagsuspecha naman ako, nagpaparinig ako. Hindi, kasi katulad yung mga nasa golf course ba, hindi ako nag-golf ha. Hindi ako kasapi nung samahan ng hampas lupa. Pero sa golf course may mga caddy, hindi yun mga empleyado eh. Mga kumbaga parang extra o may extra lang yon. Pero araw-araw nandoon sila. May mga lugar na ganun din, mga part-timer, may mga yung sa mga anime, ganun din. Ibig mo sabihin, entitled sila?
Well, let me respond to the issue ng mga caddy. Hindi po entitled yung mga caddy because they are not actually employees. They are not actually workers of the golf course.
Okay.
Di ba, in practice, sila po ay kinukuha ng mga golfers.
Oo.
So basically, the golf course, the owners or the management of the golf course is not the employer of these individuals.
Mhm.
So there is no obligation on their part to pay them the 13-month pay because in the first place, hindi po sila empleyado.
How do you establish that status na kasi may like me, I have worked for many companies but I am not an employee. Kumbaga I am sa BIR nga, I am a self-employed. Parang yun ang status ko.
Well,
diba?
there is a long dispute or debate regarding this, but the Supreme Court in several cases has set a parameter or a test to determine whether the relationship between two parties is that of employment relationship. Una,
Okay.
The power of hiring or selection. Sino po ba yung nag-hire po sa inyo? Second, who pays you? Third, who has the power to dismiss or to discipline? And second, and last, yung power of control. If the company or the hiring or the engaging company is the one controlling how you do the work, then the relationship is that of employer-employee relationship. Hindi po kayo matatawag na self-employed. Because in a self-employed concept, kayo na po yung employer, kayo pa po yung empleyado. So that's the test. Yeah, that's the test that we have been adhering to for the last years or decades in determining whether the relationship between two parties is one of employment.
Well, that's good to know. And please, I'm not making any allusions to anything or anybody. But the reason I ask this kind of question, kasi matagal ko nang nadidinig itong argument na ito na paano ko ba masasabing empleyado ko, paano ko ba masasabing entitled ako sa 13-month pay, etc. Ngayon, meron lang ito, may nag-text sa akin, does the law allow for companies to indeed be exempt to giving 13-month? What must they do to prove they are indeed distressed?
Well, the law does not provide because it's the presidential decree, but the implementing rules and regulation of that presidential decree does allow the exemption. So how do you do that? You need to file with the regional office of the Department of Labor and Employment. And you need to prove that you are a distressed employer. Ano po yung kailangan niyo pong isubmit? So basically, these are financial documents.
Paano pa hindi, pasensya ka na, Usec Benjo, I'm just being realistic here. Paano financial documents ang isasubmit ko? Kasi Alam ko lang nagsara yung kumpanya ko dahil sinara ako ng gobyerno. Nagsara yung kumpanya ko kasi wala na akong employees na makuha dahil ayaw bumiyahe ng COVID. Ano yan, mga affidavits ba?
Financial statement. Well, it's the financial statement. In practice, to determine whether a company or an enterprise is in good or bad financial standing is to
Mm.
go to an audited financial statement. These are actually the documents that have been required to prove exemption or
Mm.
distress situation.
So para na ring affidavit yun na parang gumagawa ka ng report, ito yung start of the year, ito yung pera namin, ito yung aming profit, blah blah blah. Tapos ifa-file sa DOLE.
Yes, Sir Cito. But
Oh.
again, let me again
Wag mo,
reiterate that
wag mo ko matatawag Your Honor ha. Mag-aaway tayo, Usec Benjo. Ito TV, hindi to Kongreso.
yeah, because we have been in Congress and the Senate for the last few weeks, so
O nga nga.
attending our
Okay. Ito, may tanong. Should employees be worried that they may not receive 13-month pay? Ano ba? Ano kaya mangyayari?
they should not worry. They should not worry because we still have the presidential decree. And the presidential decree obligates all employer to pay their workers 13-month pay. And it if there's a case of application for exemption, kailangan naman po itong dumaan sa proseso. And the rule is that we will be very strict in cases of filed application for exemption filed by distressed employers. So
Okay.
the general rule is in all cases you have to pay unless you are exempted. As we speak, and in my stint in the Department of Labor and Employment since 2008, wala pa po akong na-encounter na kumpanya na napagbigyan na ma-exempt po sa 13-month pay.
Oo, pero ngayon lang din naman tayo, to be fair, Yusek Benjo, ngayon lang din tayo nakaengkwentro ng COVID-19 na
Yes.
talagang binura tayo sa mukha ng mundo. Ngayon, in any case, ito, may isa, under the law, what does floating status mean for employees? And pag naka-floating ka ba, yung bang 13-month pay will primarily be based on months served.
Yeah, yes, but that will not matter actually because in the computation of the 13-month pay, what you need to add is the basic salary received or earned. So
Oh.
kahit naman po naka-floating status po kayo, kung ginamit niyo po yung forced leave, you are still earning. So that has to be included in the computation of 13-month pay. Now, going back to the issue of floating status, kasi ito po ay malaking issue din po ngayon.
Oh.
Many companies are now placing their employees in floating status, and after that, iti-terminate po nila. There's actually a jurisprudence on this matter that you can only place employees under floating status for a maximum period of 6 months.
Okay.
If you cannot recall the employees after 6 months, then you have to retrench them, then pay the separation pay.
You cannot simply terminate them outright.
Yes. There's still you need to observe the process of notifying the workers and the department that you will be terminating them, but of course you need to pay separation pay.
Okay. Okay kasi kahapon may napanood akong report. Mga jeepney drivers, no? Matatanda, biglang naglilimos at sabi nila, kasi matatanda na raw kami, hindi na kami pinagmaneho at pinalitan na kami ng mga batang driver. I don't know if they're covered by DOLE, but you mentioned, I caught you saying that there are a number of employers who are putting their employees on floating status. How
Yes.
widespread is the practice ngayon? Parang ginagamit na lang dahilan yung COVID-19 at yung quarantine para maglagas ng mga empleyado.
Well, sir, we must understand that since March, businesses are at hold, di ba? Hindi po sila
Correct.
nakapag-operate. So the natural reaction of employers is to place workers under floating status. And for the last 7 months or so, wala po silang trabaho. So for that same period of time, they are under floating status. Meron po mga kumpanya na napayagang mag-operate during the ECQ. Kaya nakapag-report po yung kanilang mga empleyado or were allowed to work from home.
Okay.
But many of our workers, these are by the millions. Doon po sa datos po namin, nasa 3.2 million po yung mga workers affected by the temporary closure of establishments. Napakarami po nito. So ito po yung mga manggagawang under floating status. Now, again, there is a jurisprudence that you can only place workers or employees under floating status for a period of 6 months.
Oh.
Otherwise, you have to recall them. Kung hindi mo po marirecall, then you need to pay them separation pay.
Okay. And then, so tanong ko na, balikan ko itong 13-month pay, no? So dun sa mga usapan, the first suggestion is for government to subsidize the small companies so they can pay the 13-month pay. And then you said Secretary Bebot Bello, Bebot ba? Hindi. Secretary Bello, wala na. Nalilito na ako, puro mga pare-pareho. Anyway, the secretary is open to the suggestion. And now, the question is, saan kayo kukuha ng pera, Usec? Kasi malaking pera yan. Do you have any idea how much we're talking about?
Well, in our yesterday's meeting, nakita po na this is by the 7 billion po ata magagastos po dito. So hinahanapan na po ito ng peraan either under the bayanihan.
Teka, ano ka mo? 7 million o 7 billion?
7 billion.
Ang yaman talaga, ang yaman talaga ng Pilipinas, ano? Parang liit na
Well,
7
sir,
billion.
If you compute the number of micro and small enterprises and provide them of the average 13-month pay of 5 to 6,000, then we will come up with an amount of 7 billion.
Okay, now for someone to have, someone has to give up. I mean, that's the rule there. Aling mga departamento, project, or mga plano ng DOLE ang medyo may isasantabi or will have to be sacrificed? I mean, I know you have labor attachés and offices abroad. I'm assuming yun yung mga mauunang marirecall at uwi muna kayo, magtipid muna tayo. What would be the strategy if that were the plan? Where would you get the money?
Well, first, we're looking into the savings. Savings, ibig pong sabihin na yung may programa pero hindi natuloy, we will get the budget from that. Then we are also looking at the Bayanihan 2. Meron pong budget na nakapaloob. And if wala pa po, we will be looking for other budgets outside the Department of Labor and Employment.
Okay, go ahead, please.
So these are the instruction coming from the secretary. Under Bayanihan 2 po kasi, we have a 13 billion fund, but my understanding is that there is also a standby fund under Bayanihan 2. So might as well that the secretary directed us to study that standby fund if we could use that.
Okay. Ang huling tanong ko na lang, no, and I'm just kinda, I guess, wondering, I've been wondering about this. Medyo magkakaroon na ba tayo ng regulation of companies in the future? Kasi napansin ko, Usec, no, I found it so strange that before COVID, everybody was so optimistic, gung-ho, announcing expansions, adding more new branches, etc. Nung biglang tumama yung COVID, parang biglang everybody was saying,
Ikaw.
actually, bankrupt kami, wala kaming pera. Parang sabi ko, teka, bago nag-COVID last month, in February, up to February 2019, ang yayabang ninyo, ang tatapang ninyo, ang yayaman nyo. Pagpasok ng March, April, poor na kayong lahat. Parang it was telling me, there is poor planning and regulation in the corporate or in the business sectors regarding, di ba, kumbaga, tinuturo sa atin yan nung bata natin, tinuturo ng Bible. Matuto kayong magtabi para sa rainy season, sa taghirap. Will this now become something to work on in the future for corporate regulations din sa DOLE?
Well, to us, Sir Cito, that's actually beyond our mandate to do that. When it comes to corporate planning, we leave that to the private sector, or at least to the Securities Exchange Commission. What we are after is that regardless of whether you are you have potential earning or you will have potential losses in the next coming months or now, you need to pay the basic labor standards.
Yeah.
So kailangan mong hanapan ng pera yon. Huwag mong idadahilan na, nag-COVID, wala akong pera. So if there is a work rendered, you need to compensate the workers. You have to pay the workers all of their benefits and labor standards provided for.
Well, thank you very much, Usec Benjo, kasi malaking bagay yung mga shinare mo ngayong umaga, and I do hope our viewers were listening intently para mabawasan yung hindi pa pagkakaintindihan, because parang napapangita ko na pagpasok ng December 15 at hindi nagkaabutan ng cheque, ay baka mag-abot ang mga kamay at ang mga mura. Sana naman wag. Anyway, thank you very much, Undersecretary Benjo Benavidez, for your time today.
Thank you, and also maraming salamat sa ating mga tagapanood. Magandang umaga po.
Okay, yan po si Undersecretary Benjo Benavidez of the Department of Labor and Employment. And malaking bagay po yung nilinaw niya. No? May batas, 1975 pa pala yung batas na yan. At sinasabi doon sa batas, lahat ng manggagawang empleyado. Kung empleyado ka, paano raw yung pagiging empleyado? Kung ikaw ay namamasukan, empleyado ka, at yung boss mo o yung kumpanya mo ang nagde-determine kung ano ang gagawin mo, paano mo gagawin, sila ang may karapatang magtanggal o magpasok sa iyo, etc. Empleyado ka. Naku, kung gusto ko palang maningil, ewan ko, kung masisingil ko pa, wala na yung kumpanya. 7 taon din yun na hindi ako nakatikim ng 13-month pay. Anyway, ganun yung aking mga tenure. 7 taon dito, 7 taon doon. In any case, that's a lesson to consider. If you are going to get into business, there is a cost and there are obligations. And you cannot cite certain conditions as a justification. Kasi pagdating sa empleyado at tao, pag namasukan at nanungkulan na at nagtrabaho, kailangan ninyong bayaran. We'll go for a quick break, and when we return, we will then go to our next guest on the issue of preparing for a last will and testament or preparing your estate. Kasi may mga kaibigan po ako, yung iba tinamaan na buhay, yung iba na tuluyan, tinamaan ng COVID, ang problema, hindi na paghandaan. Kasi marami sa atin, lalo na sa inyong mga medyo kaedad ko o mga nakakatanda, yan na, wag na natin pag-usapan yan. And it now comes to haunt all of us. We'll be right back here on Agenda. Welcome back to the program Agenda. I'm Cito Beltran, and you are watching us via Signal TV channels 8 and 250, as well as on Facebook.com/OneNewsPH and YouTube OneNewsPH. Next up, we have with us a lawyer who will help us. He's a corporate lawyer and a litigation lawyer, pero tatanungin din natin siya about estate planning, because there are a lot of people who are now thinking of last will and testament, estate planning, not just here in the Philippines but all over the world, especially for those na kumbaga nadapuan ng COVID-19. Okay? Let's bring in Attorney Ismael Nogoy, corporate lawyer of a manufacturing and construction company. He also founded his own law firm in Taguig City. He has handled many different cases and teaches at the University of Makati College of Business and Financial Science. Attorney, good morning, Attorney.
Magandang umaga po, Sir Cito, at sa inyong mga tagapakinig.
Okay, Attorney, nowadays medyo maraming mga nagtatanong. Actually, someone just recently asked me, Tito Cito, what can we do about estate planning? Because, you know, my papa came down with COVID-19. Wala siyang estate planning, wala siyang will, etc. Pwede ba na sumulat na lang siya kapirasong papel ng basic para kung ano ang gagawin namin in case hindi siya makarecover?
Alright, siguro po yung tanong ninyo, maganda nating masagot kung yun bang kanyang tatay ay nasa sound mind pa ba itong mga panahon na ito. No? Kasi pagka tayo ay gumagawa ng last will and testament, the primordial consideration is always the testator must be in sound mind. So if you're talking about last will and testament, of course, so meaning to say, dapat alam niya yung character ng testamentary act, meaning to say, alam niya bakit siya gagawa ng isang last will and testament. And he or she must know the object of his bounty, di ba? Or her bounty. Ibig sabihin, dapat alam mo ano yung mga properties na mayroon ka. And at the same time, dapat alam mo yung mga ari-arian mo, yung nature ng iyong property. Meron ka bang real property? Meron ka bang personal property, mga sasakyan ba yan? Or meron ka bang bank account? So ito yung mga considerations na dapat po nating i-consider.
Okay, so good point. The person who is writing the last will and testament must be mentally and physically of sound mind and body, sabi mo nga, no? So good point 'yun. Dapat alam niya yung mga sinusulat niya. Pero yung just for that first case, first question, pwede ba 'yun? Gumawa lang siya ng letter na ako si so and so I designate Cito Beltran or Attorney Nogoy to settle my estate. Pwede bang ganun yun?
Kasi ganito po, pagdating sa will, ang pinag-uusapan natin, a will is actually statutory. Ibig sabihin, the provisions of the civil code must be mirrored in the last will and testament, meaning to say, may mga formalities po kasi na sinusunod. Okay. So under the civil code, meron tayong dalawang klase ng will. One is notarial and the other one is holographic. So Sir Cito, you may be referring to holographic, wherein in holographic, the only requirement is that, of course, you must be of sound mind, the testator, and then it must be in writing. Pero pag sinabi natin in writing, it must be wholly written by the testator. Gamit yung kanyang sulat kamay, it is dated, and at the same time, pinirmahan dapat niya. Pero yung mga formalities niya, yung mga extrinsic validity at saka yung mga intrinsic validity, dapat pasok pa rin doon sa provisions ng batas. So in other words, ang maisasuggest natin diyan, kapag tayo ay gagawa ng last will and testament, no, especially for the ordinary people na wala namang background masyado sa batas, no, always seek the advice of lawyers or always seek professional advice. Kasi when you make a last will and testament, it does not end there. After the making of the last will and testament, the next stage is the so-called probate. When you say probate, it refers to the approval. It must be allowed by a probate court. Meaning to say, the court will look into the last will and testament and see whether the formality prescribed by law, both for the extrinsic and intrinsic validity, are followed in the last will and testament so that it will be allowed. Otherwise, it will not be allowed by the court. So, papasok tayo dun sa intestate succession. So, as if walang last will and testament na nagawa.
Okay, so hindi pala ganun kasimple. Hindi pwede yung instant emergency designation of a particular person.
Yes, hindi po ganoon siya kasimple kasi kung susulat ka lang basta-basta tapos hindi naman pasok doon sa formalities ng batas, maaaring mabaliwala. So, meaning to say, it depends on the person who writes. So, if the person writing is a lawyer, so possibly the formalities prescribed by law will be followed. But if the one who will be writing the last will and testament in a holographic form, meaning to say it need not be notarized, it does not require witnesses, no? There's a possibility na baka hindi masunod yung mga formalities prescribed by law. So, for estate planning, siguro, when you are a person who owns a lot of property, it is always I could say suggestion na always seek the advice of professionals. So maybe you can look for certified financial planners who may not be lawyers but who have knowledge about estate planning, and you can also seek the advice of a lawyer who can really guide you when it comes to making a last will and testament, be it notarial will or a holographic will.
Okay, so notarial or holographic will, ang tanong, kailangan ba lagi ng will? Ano ang nagiging problema pag walang will? Kasi, well, kami, yung nanay ko nag-iwan. Pero hindi pa rin yon basta-basta na-resolve kasi marami pa rin diskurso. No? Pero yung mga ibang kaibigan ko, ni kapirasong papel, wala eh. Anong nangyayari? What are usually the consequences of people, especially yung mga medyo may kaya sa buhay o mayayaman? What often happens? You're a lawyer. I'm sure you have experience with these cases. What normally happens, or do you have stories to tell us about people who failed to have a estate plan or a last will or testament?
Yes, of course, pagka wala kang last will and testament, and then marami kang pag-aari, usually ang nagiging problema natin dyan yung sa hatian, yung sa mana. Nagkakaroon ng problema sa mga magkakapatid. Minsan kasi umaandar yung kultura ng Pilipino na minsan dahil ako yung panganay, dapat akin ito. Dahil ako yung bunso, dapat akin ito. Ako yung paborito ni tatay, ako yung paborito ni nanay, akin ito. Nung nabubuhay pa si tatay, sabi niya, akin ito. So ganoong mga bagay ay nagiging problema ng umalis o ng yumao, no? Kapag wala siyang last will and testament. So, kaya importante kung ikaw ay isang tao na meron namang pag-aari, no? Hindi kailangan na sobrang dami mong pag-aari. Kung gusto mo na maiwan ang iyong mga anak o ang iyong pamamanahan na maayos sila, kasi kaya nga tinawag ko yung last will and testament, huling habilin mo eh. No? Kahit nasa hukay ka na, nagsasalita ka pa rin at binibigyan niya ng tawag dito ng importansya ng batas, no? Hindi pwedeng sabihin ng panganay na nung nabubuhay pa si tatay, sabi niya sa akin itong mansyon. When in fact, kung gumawa ng last will and testament pala yung tatay, hindi naman yun ang kanyang intention. Ang intention pala niya, yung mansyon na yan, na ibenta na lang, and then yung proceeds paghati-hatian ninyo. So, ang ating may papayo doon, no, kung meron lang din tayong pag-aari, huwag nating panghinayangan. Of course, merong gastos yan, no? Pero yung peace of mind o yung orderliness in the family, kung sakaling mawala ka, merong kang maraming property, yung maiiwan mo, meron silang guide. And for as long as that last will and testament will be approved by the court, meaning to say both in its due execution and then on the capacity of the testator to make a will, that will be honored. And that will be honored. So walang pwedeng magsabi na mali yan or hindi ito as long as it is approved by the court. So it will settle future problems within the family.
Okay, which is a cheaper option? Kasi yung asawa ko, tiga ibang bansa, sabi niya, dun sa kanilang bayan, karaniwan, binebenta na lang lahat imbis na hinahati-hati. And dito sa Pilipinas, may nakapagsabi sa akin, nako Zito, pag yung mga kakilala mong mayayaman, naghati-hati pa yung mga anak, pag magbabayad sila ng abogado, magbabayad ng BIR, magbabayad ng accountant, etc., nako, mas mabuti pang ipagbili na nila lahat o ibigay na nila habang buhay pa sila, kasi kung hindi, ang ipapamana nila sa kanilang mga mahal sa buhay ay konsumisyon.
Actually, sir, pwede rin naman po yun. No? Kasi kung halimbawa bigay, donation inter vivos, meaning to say during the lifetime noong nagbigay ay talagang ibinigay niya, no? Hindi yung tipong just to circumvent the law, kasi marami pong gumagawa, no? Para maiwasan daw yung pagbabayad ng estate tax, palalabasin na ibinenta sa anak, palalabasin na i-donate sa anak. Pero when in fact, yung bahay, ibinigay pa lang sa anak, matapos siyang yumao. Pwede yon kung walang intention to circumvent the law. Hindi yun po pwede kung may intention to circumvent the law, kasi magiging mas mahal. Dahil ang computation po kasi ng estate tax is the fair market value of the property nung panahon na mamatay yung decedent. Okay? Yung panahon na mamatay yung decedent. So, we must always look into our intention o our motive. No? So kung ililipat mo yan during your lifetime, dapat totoo yung paglilipat. Hindi yung just to circumvent the law. That will be mas less expensive, no? Less expensive talaga yun, kasi you will not have to draft a will, you don't have to go to court to have it approved, you don't have to hire a lawyer. That is less expensive, but at the end of the day, you have to ask yourself what is your real intention. Kasi at the end of the day, if that is only to circumvent the law, later mas magiging mahal kasi may mga penalties.
Kasi sa ngayon, bumaba na yung estate tax, di ba? Tsaka yung singil na PIR. So yung pangamba na gagawin yan kasi para lang makasave o makaiwas doon sa mahal na buwis, hindi na issue ngayon. Napakaganda yung ginawa ng gobyerno ngayon regarding that. Pero yung tungkol doon sa yung talagang, ikaw ba sa experience mo, attorney, what's been your experience regarding parents or individuals who just decided, I'll give it to my children while I'm still alive and I want to see them appreciate or enjoy the blessing? Kasi parang may mga iba nagsasabi sa akin, nako, baka pag binigay ko sa anak ko yung aking bahay, baka palayasin ako. I mean, fear and facts are two different things. In your experience, meron bang batayan yung mga fear na yon, or talaga bang mas maganda na buhay ka pa, binibigay mo na yung pamana para mapakinabangan naman?
Again, no, pupunta tayo doon sa intention ng tao. Kung talaga ang kanyang gusto ay habang nabubuhay pa siya, kasi nga naman kung patay na siya, hindi na niya makikita paano ginastos ng kanyang pinamanahan, paano in-enjoy ng pinamanahan niya yung kanyang pamana, no? May mga sitwasyon na ganoon, no, na ayaw munang magbigay ng magulang doon sa anak kasi minsan ang consideration is yung napangasawa, baka yun nga maramot, di ba? Ibinigay ko na lang sa anak ko, pinalayas pa ako. May mga ganung sitwasyon po talaga, no? Ibinigay lang sa anak, pero may usapan na habang nabubuhay pa ako, anak, dito muna ako sa bahay. Pero nung mailipat na lahat yung titulo and everything, nakita na yung title is nailipat na, lalo na kung paano, kung naunang mamatay yung anak and then naiwan na lang yung in-law. So may mga ganoon po talagang sitwasyon.
Attorney, time out. Kasi di ba ngayon uso na yung prenuptial agreement. So pwedeng sabihin na yung pamana sa akin wala kang pakialam as far as the husband or new wife or the wife is concerned. Pero yung sinabi mo na may usapan o may agreement, kung meron namang kontrata or testament or whatever na nagsasabi in written form na for the duration of my life I will live in this house and only until I die can you fully have full ownership of it, although I transfer the title to you. Hindi ba pwede yun? Delikado ba yun?
Hindi yun po pwede, sir, no? Kasi kapag last will and testament, ano ba ang definition ng last will and testament? It is actually an act whereby a person is permitted, no, with the formalities prescribed by law to control to a certain degree the disposition of his or her property to take effect after his death. Meaning to say, kung gagawa ka ng last will and testament at ilalagay mo sa last will and testament mo, inililipat ko na sa iyo yung titulo doon sa property, tapos may condition ka na dito mo na ako titira, that actually is in the nature of a last will and testament, not a donation.
Hindi, yung deed of donation, bale, sige attorney, bibigay ko sa'yo itong property na ito, sa'yo na yan, pero hindi mo ako pwedeng paalisin. Meron tayong kasulatan. Pwede ba yun?
Actually, it will be in the nature of donation mortis causa. So it will be interpreted as donation mortis causa. Hindi siya donation inter vivos. Pagka donation mortis causa, ibig sabihin yung paglilipat talaga, no, yung paglilipat talaga ay magaganap lang after the death pa. So meaning to say the intention is really to transfer the property after the death of the giver or of the testator. So mortis causa, you have to follow the formalities of the last will and testament.
How different is that from a last will and testament? Kasi yung mortis causa, from what you're saying, binibigay ko sa'yo. Kanya lang, hanggat buhay ako, dito ko. Pero yung sa last will and testament, patay na ako. Pag doon yun na pag-uusapan, patay na ako.
Yes po. So what I mean, sir, is that kung ganoon yung ginawa mong yung sinasabi natin na deed of donation pero meron ka lang condition, ang sinasabi natin is although it is termed as donation, it will be interpreted as last will and testament. So it must follow. Okay, it must follow the formalities of last will and testament.
Oo, pero yung yung mortis causa na sinasabi mo, the donation mortis causa, hindi pwedeng questionin yon kasi hindi ba kasi yung last will and testament minsan pinag-aawayan pa rin nakasulat na nga, pinag-aawayan pa kung paano ang hatian o sino makakakuha.
Yes, pinag-aawayan pa rin to ang last will and testament. Kaya nga kapag gumawa tayo ng last will and testament, hindi siya doon natatapos, no? Ang ginagawa po diyan, yan ay pinapa-probate. Okay? Ang pag-probate po ng last will and testament, dalawa. Pwedeng during the lifetime of the testator or after ng lifetime ng testator. So, sa probate po, mayroong mga instances na nadidisallow, okay, ang last will and testament. Halimbawa po ng instance na nadidisallow ang last will and testament, pinilit lang yung testator na gumawa ng last will and testament. Nagkamali lang siya na pinirmahan yung isang last will and testament na ang sabi ng anak niya, nay, pirmahan mo itong dokumento na ito, ganito lang yung nilalaman ito, pero when in fact, kasi illiterate yung magulang, last will and testament na pala yung pinirmahan. Ano pa? Hindi nasunod yung formalities ng batas. So yun yung sinasabi po natin, no? Itong last will and testament, hindi yun yung katapusan. Yung second stage yan is probate. Titingnan pa yan ng hukuman kung lahat ng formalities ng batas, both intrinsic and extrinsic validity ay nasunod. So pwede siyang questionin pa rin. That's why I always suggest to my clients, no, kapag mayroong last will and testament na ginawa, I suggest to them na ito ay ipaprobate during their lifetime. Okay? Bakit po during their lifetime? So that kung mayroong mga legal impediments, pwede pang makorek. Okay? Pwede pang makorek. Otherwise, kung yan ay ipapaprobate mo after your lifetime, kung may legal impediments, mayroong mga irregularities, no? May mga hindi nasunod sa batas, i-disallow yan ng korte. So baliwala yung last will and testament.
Ayun. Okay, marami kang naituro, attorney. Para ka lang nasa university this morning, ano. In any case, thank you for your time and sana hindi po ito yung huling ating pag-uusap dahil marami talagang mga tao na nagpayaman, ang daming ari-arian, pagkatas bandang huli, sabi nga hindi nagbigay ng pamanang biyaya, kundi nagpamana ng konsumisyon. Okay, thank you very much, Attorney Nogoy. Please keep up the good work and thank you for your time this morning. God bless you, sir.
God bless you, sir. Thank you.
Okay, yan po si Attorney Ismael Nogoy, Litigation and Corporate Lawyer. At least kahit pa paano meron kayong nakuhang karagdagang kaalaman tungkol dito sa last will and testament. And baka sabihin nyo, ano pinoproblema ni Cito? Hindi po ako namumroblema. Yung makatanggap ka ng tawag at sabihin sa'yo, Tito, yung tatay ko may COVID-19, wala kaming last will and testament, baka matuluyan. And don't judge the person, ano? Kasi alam nyo po, maraming mga tao na yung itong COVID-19, maraming tao talaga nag-aakala na pag ikaw ay senior citizen, ay tamaan ka ng COVID-19, baka mas malamang at malamang na matigok ka o mamatay ka. Hindi naman po nangyayari yun lagi. No? Marami tayo. Meron nga yung 90 plus years old na nakarecover. Ilang kaso na yan? 70, 80, 90 nakarecover. Pero mahirap din nga naman yung ikaw yung maiiwan ng lahat ng problema. Nako, dito pa sa Pilipinas, yung mga maraming panganay, nakatulad ko, maraming panganay dyan na pag namatay ang ama at ina, sila ang tatay at nanay at tiga-desisyon. Nako po, medyo yan po ang magiging problema ng marami. So, ako sa akin lang, baka mas mabuti pa yung habang buhay kayo, may konti kayong pera. Alam nyo, si Presidente Erap Estrada, love him, hate him, like him, don't like him, whatever. Pero may sinabi siya sa akin nung naka-detain siya sa Tanay, kasi ako po yun naging parang pastor-pastoran niya doon. Sabi niya, alam mo Sito, lahat ng mga anak ko, sinuportahan ko. At lahat ng mga anak ko, binigyan ko ng propiedad na, kasi artista naman nagsimula yan, may kaya, etc. Binibigyan niya ng mga apartment. Yung mga lahat naging anak niya, para may paupa yung mga anak niya at tinuruan niya na, yan, binigyan kayo ng paupahan, kunin ninyo yung pera dyan para sa ikalalagay nyo sa negosyo, kabuhayan. Yung mga ibang anak ni Erap ay naging kaibigan ko at hanggang ngayon, yung mga paupahan na yon, yung iba naging from apartment na yun lang, apartment of the 60s, 70s, 80s, nga naging townhouse na, kinonvert na ng townhouse, pina-rebuild na. So naging kabuhayan, hindi konsumisyon. So ayun po, no? Habang kayo'y nabubuhay, bigyan nyo na lang ng kapital, turuan nyo magnegosyo, bigyan niyo ng paraan ng kabuhayan. Naku, hindi yung kung kailan kayo patay, bago kayo mamatay, sasabihin nyo, sana naman may anak akong sumunod sa aking mga yapak. Sana naman yung anak ko ay maalagaan ako pagtanda. Naku, wag na po. Kung kayo'y nag-anak, turuan nyo, tulungan nyo, at hayaan nyo. Okay, we will go for a quick break. And when we return, I hope to speak with our next guest naman tungkol po dito sa telemedicine. We will be right back here on Agenda. Okay, you're back here on Agenda. I'm Cito Beltran. Thank you for joining us this morning, and I do hope that you'll continue to picking up nuggets of information, learnings, and ika nga makatulong ito sa inyo. And at this point, let's talk about telemedicine. Because, sasabihin, Kuyang, hindi naman bago yan. Naku po, mabuti na yung napapasariwaan that I remind you every now and then about telemedicine. Because, for some strange reason, a lot of people are now trying to, parang living in denial ba? ayaw nang isipin yung doktor, hospital, check-up, kung may nararamdaman, titira ng paracetamol, bahala kayo, baka pero guilty rin ako no. So yung telemedicine daw ay sinabi nga ng World Health Organization refers to healing from a distance. Parang yung kanta, no? From a distance. Bette Midler ba yun or something? Anyway, pag-usapan natin itong telemedicine. It is the use of telecommunications, cellphone, okay, sorry, nabitawan ko na, cellphone, pagkatapos information technologies to provide remote clinical services, for the transmission of digital imaging, yung mga X-ray, MRI, video consultations, and remote medical diagnosis. To help us through this, we have Dr. Jacqueline Michelle Melendres, Teledermatology Unit Head ng Rizal Medical Center. Kasi, ayan po. Okay, Dr. Jacqueline, good morning.
Good morning, sir. Thank you for having me.
Okay, now baka magtaka yung alam mo may napanood akong video, pinagtatalunan ba yung mga kinds of doctors during COVID? Maraming tao nakakalimutan itong telemedicine. Yung sa'yo, teledermatology ba yung sabi nila? Marami napapabayaan na yung kanilang kutis at etc. at kanilang kalusugan. Now, can you tell us more about your experience with telemedicine? Because people are still not sure about it.
Sige, sir. Actually, here in the country, before the pandemic, hindi po ganun kadaming nagpa-practice ng telemedicine. So, kami noon, we started in 2017 sa Rizal Medical Center, Department of Dermatology. So, ang telemedicine namin noon ay provider to provider. Ibig sabihin, may kapartner po kaming isa pang healthcare institution kung saan po yung kanilang healthcare worker, whether doctor or nurse, ay nagre-refer sa amin ng mga pasyente na may problema sa balat. Ngayon po, nung in-announce po yung enhanced community quarantine nung March, kinilangan po namin gumawa ng paraan para maka-provide kami ng direct-to-consumer telemedicine. So, ibig sabihin po noon, diretso na po sa pasyente. Kasi nung panahon na yun po, nagsara po kasi yung outpatient department namin. So, we had to find a way to provide continuous care. So, in a matter of few days, the hospital was able to set up a telemedicine hotlines for all our departments. So, simula po nung March hanggang ngayon, patuloy po namin binibigay yung service ng telemedicine and specifically sa amin, teledermatology sa mga pasyente.
Okay, how do you conduct telemedicine for in your department, dermatology? Kasi alam mo, kasi pasikat nung iba yung beautification of dermatology na layo na sa mga seryosong aspeto or the serious diseases of dermatology. How do you evaluate and treat dermatological disorders or diseases via telemedicine?
Sige po. So for example, sa amin po, pinaka-common na nakikita naming sakit via teledermatology ay psoriasis. So isa po itong sakit sa balat na very chronic, meaning panghabang buhay na pong usually dala ng mga pasyente. So kailangan nila ng long-term care. So ang ginagawa po namin, nag-isip kami ng paraan kasi we wanted a platform that could be available to our patient base. Meaning lahat po sana ng pasyente magagamit siya. So naisip namin isang hotline number. So cellphone number po yung ginagamit namin. And then doon po magte-text ang pasyente and then hihingin po namin yung detalye nila and then magpapadala po sa amin sila ng litrato o picture ng balat nila sa pamamagitan po ng chat. So, ang pinaka-ginagamit po namin is Facebook Messenger kasi natuklasan namin na ito po yung accessible sa lahat. Meron po kasing mga networks na nag-o-offer ng libreng Facebook Messenger. So, kahit po walang data talaga na subscription yung pasyente, kahit picture po, nakakapagpadala sila. So, base po dun sa picture, maaari po naming makita yung problema nila sa balat, ma-diagnose sila, at maibigyan po ng tamang reseta. So, yung pag napadala yung picture, tatawag po yung aming consultation officer. So isa po itong resident in dermatology. Tapos kakausapin po yung pasyente via phone call. Usually po kasi phone call yung pinipili nilang paraan ng pakikipag-usap kahit ino-offer namin yung video call kasi nga po wala silang data or medyo pangit po yung signal minsan. So kakausapin po, tatanungin yung history, kung gaano katagal na yung sakit, kailan nagsimula, tapos saka po ida-diagnose, and then saka po ipapadala ulit yung picture ng reseta niya sa pamamagitan po ng chat.
Okay, that's quite helpful. Ngayon, how do you determine o paano mo nadidesisyonan kailan dapat pumunta sa hospital yung pasyente or kung pwede na yan, telemedicine na lang tayo and then etc. Paano yung protocol ninyo, doktora?
So depende po ito sa severity nung sakit ng pasyente. So ang telemedicine po talaga is usually pang non-emergency cases lamang. So ibig sabihin po, ito yung mga kaso na kadalasan talagang nakikita namin sa outpatient clinic lang. Pero kung medyo malala na po, kung severe or mukhang emergency na, pinapapunta na po namin for physical consultation or kung talagang kinakailangan, pinapadala na po namin sa emergency room. So base lang po sa pictures, kami po sa dermatology, nakikita namin kung kailangan na talaga ng pasyente na pumunta or maaari na namin siyang i-manage sa pamamagitan lamang ng telemedicine.
Puro sabi mo nga picture lang talo-talo na pero may mga iba raw department ng Rizal Medical na nagpapadala pa ng MRI o ng mga kasi ako yung sa akin diyan ako nagpa-blood test tapos pinadala ko na lang sa doktor ko kasi sabi ko Dok, ayoko nang pumunta sa clinic mo, pagod na ako, ikot-ikot na ako today, pwede bang padala ko na lang sa yung resulta? Parang pinadala sa akin ng Rizal Medical, pagkatapos pinadala ko naman doon sa heart center. Sa inyo ba, meron ba kayong mga ganun, yung mga MRI, mga scan o mga X-ray?
So lahat po ng department namin sa hospital, sir, nag-offer po ng telemedicine. So Department of Radiology, so sila po yung nag-handle ng mga X-ray, MRI. Tapos po kung kunyari for general medicine sa adult, sa internal medicine po yun. So for example, ang isang pasyente ay meron ng sakit na matagal nang na-diagnose, naka-maintenance medication na siya, kamukha po ng diabetes o kaya hypertension, maaring magpadala na lang yung doktor sa kanya ng request, picture ng request ng blood test, kunyari. Tapos ibabalik po ng pasyente yung resulta, pipicturan lang din ng pasyente. Tapos base po doon, ma-assess na ng doktor kung pwede niyang ipagpatuloy yung dating gamot na naireseta or kailangang palitan yung gamot na naireseta na sa kanya. So meron naman po nun lahat sa Rizal Medical Center.
Doc, yung sinabi mo kaninang severe cases, kasi alam mo, as I mentioned, no, it is sad that when you mention dermatology, which is a medical science, no, a lot of people associate it with beauty or beautification or ayaw ko anong tawag doon, parang yung nire-retoke yung mukha, no? Pero sa aspeto ng dermatology, especially with Rizal Medical Center, what are the cases that you are now seeing a lot more during this pandemic that was not there before?
For example, sir, like I mentioned earlier, yung psoriasis, siya yung number one na nakikita naming sakit.
Why
Yung
is that? Why
kasi
is
po
that?
yung mga pasyente ngayon, dahil sa stress, sa palagay po namin, dahil sa stress, dahil dulot ng pandemic, o kaya maaring hindi po sila nakakabili ng mga gamot nila, maaring mga nawalan ng trabaho, or due to limited supply, baka nawalan po ng supply ng gamot sa lugar nila, nagfi-flare po, meaning dumadami po yung, lumalala po yung psoriasis nila. Kung dati po, medyo stable.
Does diet play into that?
In terms of diet, with psoriasis po, wala pang proven na related siya to a patient's diet.
Okay.
It's
So
more
stress
related
and
to stress,
medication.
infections, kunyari unable to apply the prescribed medication. So usually po, yun yung nagiging problem. Yung stress po talaga, kasi ang dami pong na-stress dahil po dun sa pandemic. And then aside from psoriasis, we also see yung eczemas. So, for example, yung mga dahil po sa kakahugas ng kamay, kaka-alcohol ng kamay, yung mga kamay nila nanunuyot, nagkakaroon na po ng mga hand eczemas. Meron
Ano
din
ba
po yung
yung eczema sa Doktora Jacqueline? Ano ba yun? Sugat-sugat or para bang
mga
how would you describe it?
Iba-iba po siyang klase pero usually po sa kamay, ang pinaka-common po naming nakikita is yung irritant contact dermatitis na tinatawag. So pwede po itong magkaroon ng dryness, severe dryness
Mhm,
sa kamay, pwedeng nagbibitak-bitak, pwedeng
mhm.
mahapde or kaya makate. Kadalasan yun nga po, ngayon recently dulot ito ng paulit-ulit nating paghuhugas ng kamay at saka pag-apply ng alcohol. So dumami
Hmm,
po yung mga kaso namin nun ngayon. And then
okey.
isa pa po yung mga sa mga healthcare workers, yung mga PPE related skin dermatosis. So yung kakatagalan pong nakasuot ng mask,
Oo.
nagkakaroon na po sila ng mga either sugat-sugat sa muka o kaya nagkakaroon po ng mga acne dun sa facial area nila.
Ay totoo yung sinabi mo na yan kasi sa'kin yung 'pag nagma-mask lang ako nagkakasugat na ako sa may tenga, eh. Kanya medyo naging pabayaan na naman ako ulit sa mask dahil nakakairita nga. What else, doktora?
Yung other diseases, for example, yung sa mga bata, marami rin po kaming kaso ngayon ng atopic dermatitis or yung tinatawag na skin asthma.
Uh-huh.
Sa tingin po namin kasi maaring yung mga bata, hindi na rin nakakabili siguro yung mga magulang ng mga gamot na dating na-prescribe para sa mga anak nila. So, nag-flare po yung atopic dermatitis nila.
Ayun. Okay. Yung anak ko na nasa abroad na 'no, nasa Netherlands, may sinabi siyang commentary, eh. Sabi niya, "Papa, yung aking complexion nag-improve dito. Wala naman akong binago." Sabi ko, "Alam mo, Hana, suspecha ko kasi diyan walang pollution." Yung bang pollution nakakaapekto rin talaga sa ano, sa complexion ng mga bata lalo na yung mga nagbibinata, nagdadalaga na
Mm.
puro na anong tawag nila dun, acne.
Definitely po. So, kung nasa maruming hangin or marumi yung paligid, mas likely po na magkaroon, for example, ng acne o kaya ng iba pa
Mhm.
pong eczemas. So, kunyari, lumipat ang isang bata sa lugar na mas malinis yung hangin or mas malinis yung kapaligiran, nag-improve po talaga yung balat nila. Kasi
Yung
yung environmental factors really play a big role in dermatologic
Oo
diseases.
nga, eh, kanya nga hindi ba 'pag yung mga kamag-anakan natin bumabalik galing Amerika, yung mga nagbabalik bayan o galing ibang bansa, parang ang healthy nilang tingnan, ang, gaganda ng kanilang mga kutis, ayun pala, eh, pollution ang problema. Anyway, mabalik ako sa telemedicine, doktora. What are the guidelines or ano po ba yung mga dapat alalahanin ng ating mga pasyente at ng mga doktor? Because, in the past, before COVID, it was always an issue of bedside manners on the part of
Mm-mm.
doctors, and on the part of patients, the issue was always their shortcoming would be failure to full disclosure o sabihin lahat ng mga nalalaman. Sa telemedicine, ano ba ang dapat sa isip or remember ng mga tao?
So start ako sir sa mga doktor 'no. Since nung start ng pandemic, paulit-ulit na po kami nagkakaroon ng mga iba-ibang seminars or workshops on telemedicine. So number one for doctors, it's finding the right platform that works. So ibig sabihin, kailangan pumili ng platform for telemedicine na naaangkop para sa iyong patients. So like kami po, I mentioned kanina, dahil yung patients namin hindi rin po ganun ka-widely accessible yung internet. So cellphone number yung ginagamit namin para sa kanila. And then for doctors, it's important to always secure consent prior to a telemedicine consultation. So dati kasi, kahit naman bago ng pandemic, may marami sa aming mga doktor nakakakuha ng mga text galing sa mga kamag-anak o kaibigan na kumukonsulta. Hindi naman na po bago yon. Pero with the advent of the pandemic, we're making it something more formal. So, ideally, may consent, may guide naman po na binigay ang Department of Health on paano po mag-secure ng consent sa mga pasyente via telemedicine. And then next, kailangan pong i-document yung konsultasyon. Kasi dati, like I mentioned, kung sa kamag-anak mo lang, di mo naman ililista sa chart yon, di ka nagagawa ng chart niya.
Hmm.
So sa ngayon po, we advise that we document every consultation para pag bumalik yung pasyente, alam namin kung ano yung naireseta, yung dating naibigay, at ano yung dating problema ng pasyente para malaman kung umayos ba yung lagay ng pasyente. And then lastly, as you mentioned, sir, yung webside manners. So, hindi na bedside, webside manners na po yung gamit, yung tawag sa kanya. So, gaya ng tinuturo sa amin dati sa bedside, kailangan lagi mong papakilala yung sarili mo sa pasyente bago ka mag-start ng consultation. Kailangan your full attention is to the patient. Also, yung lugar kung saan ka gagawa ng telemedicine consult, dapat walang distractions. So, as much as possible, tahimik, maliwanag yung area. And
Yung
then for
pasyente.
patients, on the other hand, for patients naman, ito po kasing na-experience namin, we request that patients give us their full undivided attention during the consultation. Kasi nasa bahay nga lang po, so minsan nagmumultitask po yung mga pasyente, nagpapakonsulta, tapos meron pong ginagawang ibang bagay. So, to be able to...
Nagsasaing,
Opo, or naglalaba,
nagpapadede.
gano'n. Opo. Para po ma-maximize ng mabuti yung consultation kasi sayang naman po, kausap na nila yung doktor. Next is kung kailangan po ng mga litrato, kunan po sa maliwanag at na lugar, kung pwedeng sa tabi po ng bintana or sa labas ng bahay kung kaya, para po makita namin ng mabuti yung larawan at kung ano po yung problema. And then pag tinanong po ng doktor kung ano na, ihanda na po yung mga, kunyari, mga dating gamot na ininom nyo na or naireseta na sa inyo para po ma-facilitate yung proseso ng konsultasyon. And then lastly, kailangan po maging honest, kamukha po nung sinabi nyo, sir. Kasi po, even in physical consultations, minsan patients withhold certain information. So, lalo na po sa telemedicine, kung kausap mo lang or nasa video call lang, parang mas madali na mag-withhold ng information. So, as much as possible, sabihin po lahat para mabigyan po ng tamang management, para alam po ng doktor lahat.
Okay, well, Doktora Jacqueline Michelle Melendres, kung ikaw ay nag-a-attend ng aking communications classes, you will get A for excellent performance. Aba, pwede kang maging spokesperson ng DOH. Napakagaling mo. Napakaganda ng presentation and very helpful. Thank you very much for your time, Doktora. Marami po kaming natutunan sa inyo.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for having me. Sana po nakatulong ako sa inyo.
Okay, thank you very much and have a good day. That's Dr. Jacqueline Michelle Melendres. Very impressive. Alam niyo po, napakaklaro niya, napaka-particular, detalye, etc. Pati na dun sa pointers. And we hope that all of you will remember that. Lalo na kung kayo yung pasyente, full disclosure po. Kasi lalo na itong hindi kayo nagkakaharap, baka tinitipid ninyo yung pagbibigay ng informasyon ninyo, hindi nyo inaalala. Pinakamagaling po, before you even go to your doctor, recall everything you ate, place you went, people you talked to, medicine you took, things that you change in your schedule or in your activity para may pagbabatayan yung doktor kung saan o ano ang pinanggagalingan nung nararamdaman ninyo. Kasi ngayon po, maraming pumupunta sa doktor, tumatawag sa doktor dahil may nararamdaman daw. Kalabas-labasan, yung nararamdaman, hindi karamdaman, kung hindi sakit sa katawan, dala ng sila po kasi ay nagtratrabaho na uli sa bahay. Okay, thank you very much for your time today. Have a good day. I hope to see you again tomorrow. God bless all of you and take care of yourselves, please. That's agenda for you today.